And welcome to another episode of the Dynasty Trades HQ podcast, brought to you by the Dynasty Football Network and DynastyFootballFactory.com. My name is Michael Cipes. You can find me on Twitter.
You can find me on Twitter at FFBlitz.
You can find me on Twitter at FFBlitz. And I'm here with my partner, Jeremy Browand.
You can find me on Twitter at DFF_Madman.
And Shane Manila.
Yeah, and you can find me also at DFF_Shane, or if you don't want to look me up by that way, you can look up the ghost of Data Don't Score Points.
I saw that today. You changed
Did that
your
guy
name.
die or did you die?
Yeah, what happened there?
So we had an incident with our patron account. We lost a patron today. And the message that they left is the reasoning, because you can leave a reason on the exit thing, is because they accidentally subscribed to us and they wanted to subscribe to a different podcast.
Oh.
So that hurt. Yeah. So also, just real quick.
Did they say who they wanted to subscribe to?
Yeah, but I'm not going to mention it on there because I'm not trying to show shade at that party. But real quick, that's fine. You can also stop subscribing to our show too. So bye.
So how did you become the ghost of Data Don't Score Points?
Because it killed me. It killed me inside when I read that. I died. Basically, you're telling me that my child isn't good enough for you. So I don't even want you listening to our show anymore. Person that did that.
All right.
Seriously, hit unsubscribe right now. The rest
they
of the
didn't
show
even
is
want to
not
pay
for you.
$1 to follow us.
Okay.
So make sure you hit unsubscribe. It's not. I don't want you listening to our show. The rest of the show is not for you.
All right, and anybody that's a little confused, he's just talking about that one specific person.
No,
Nobody else.
Everybody else, I still love you. Please continue to listen.
Everybody else, stick around. So we have a big show tonight. We have Dan Clasgens from Fantistics Insider on SiriusXM coming on tonight. And before we bring him in, though, we have to do a little bit of our news, brought to you by rotosurance.com. Put in the code DynastyTradesHQ all in caps and get your 20% off your player insurance. We had some news that one of the stories happened after we did our show last week, right?
We had news?
Duke.
Oh, yeah. Real quick. So I don't want to beat this to death because it's old now, but Nick Chubb is actually still on the Browns. But Duke Johnson was traded.
Yeah, Duke.
Yeah.
Duke.
So, and we already have gotten to see his replacement.
Yeah. Who's that?
And he's a guy that everybody needs to go pick up like right now.
I agree with you on this.
Behind Nick Chubb, it is just a teenage wasteland of bad running backs or guys.
Yeah, for 8 weeks, there is nothing.
Yeah, it's Dontrell Hilliard. So Dontrell Hilliard, he had 9 carries for 19 yards and 3 receptions for 34 yards on 6 targets, which is what I really like right there.
We love the pass catching backs. You gotta go after those guys.
And according to ClevelandBrowns.com, I'm going to mispronounce this name, and I apologize if you haven't listened to the show.
I love how Shane talks about my Cleveland Browns so much, and then I'm going to bring up something about the Eagles in just 5 minutes.
Anthony Posel of ClevelandBrowns.com has indicated that it will be Dontrell Hilliard that is replacing Duke Johnson. And so, Duke Johnson, unfortunately, was kind of...
And that's just by, the law of averages. There's nobody else. Kareem Hunt's suspended for 8 weeks. So there's literally nobody but a bunch of scrubs and, D'Ernest Johnson behind Nick Chubb until Kareem Hunt comes back. Yeah. So it literally is the Dontrell Hilliard show. And he showed out, and the team really likes him thinks he can take right over where Duke Johnson left off. They're not worried about losing Duke, which I am. I'm a big Duke fan, but. And
here's the thing. So, Duke had his career low in last year, career lows. Well, basically across the board. But he still saw 62 targets and still had 47 receptions.
There are wide receivers that don't get 62 targets.
Yeah, and I mean,
we like.
And for beginning of the year last year, Carlos Hyde was there, cutting into some of that workload, and Hugh Jackson was the head coach, who's he doesn't know how to use anyone. So this guy's definitely someone that could eventually maybe even be able to provide you with some like deep flex value. And if God forbid anything were to happen to Nick Chubb, besides me falling asleep crying, this guy would immediately slot in as the 3-down back because behind him is Ernest Johnson, right?
Yeah,
Johnson?
it might be a committee backfield. Yeah, it might be a committee backfield after that. But the point you're making stands. For 8 weeks before they get Kareem Hunt back, or until, it's Nick Chubb and Dontrell Hilliard, and you need to pick that. That has to be a priority pickup for you because even if Nick Chubb never gets hurt, nothing happens. That guy is all they have, and all those targets last year, and carries that are vacated from just Hyde and Duke Johnson, just guys that were in the mix until Hyde was traded. When Nick Chubb took over, Duke still got work. You're gonna get points from Dontrell Hilliard, and he's a capable back. So there's a league where I picked him up and Myles Gaskin. I couldn't believe they were both available. I dropped players to pick both of them up, and Dontrell Hilliard was my first move because he is a definite play. He's like Pollard, Tony Pollard in Dallas. He's going to have a role, and if the starter goes down, he's more than a handcuff. He's a standalone value and then also a handcuff. So Shane, man, I'm glad you brought up I think you're trying to impress me. You like my Browns more than you let on.
I'm just working.
There's something. You know where he's available? He's available in our DFB Invitational.
Go
fucking get it.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's
go do
the
it.
15th. The 15th
we
is
have
when
to wait
waivers run
to
again.
The 15th.
Oh,
So
shit.
We need to. Hey, Shane.
Let's
Shane, guys.
Put that in.
Hey, guys, we've got a powwow this time. We have to spend way more money, Shane, in order to win a player, just so you know.
Well, then you guys put in the
Serious
waivers.
cash, dude.
I don't know.
I just looked it up, and he's available in that league, but I don't want them to know, so be quiet.
Yeah, they're not going to listen to this, are they?
All right. So that was the only news we actually had. So if we...
Well, no. I mean, also, that's all that's on the paper, but I just wanted to bring up...
Got more up his sleeve.
Well,
man.
I just wanted to bring up the fact of Justice Hill and Darwin Thompson both look like outstanding little players this week. And I know it's the preseason, but it's just some of the things that they did in college that you saw really came across on the football field this week. And that was really awesome to see. Darwin Thompson, neither of those guys are available in any of your leagues.
No.
So whatever. If you don't own them, suck it.
Yeah, and later on in the show, we actually have a trade alert that we're going to discuss later that actually involves Justice Hill and you. So, but all right, cool. Well, before we bring in our awesome guest, why don't we hear from the Scouting Academy?
Scout NFL football like a pro. Invest in yourself and get a degree in player evaluation and assessment from the Scouting Academy. They've educated NFL GMs, personnel directors, and dozens of NFL scouts. Enroll today and you'll watch the same game tape NFL coaches watch. You'll learn to look past the metrics with position-by-position analysis. This is a time-tested curriculum, a chance to learn from the NFL execs and coaches. Sign up today and get a Dynasty Football Factory exclusive discount for a limited time only. Save $50 when you sign up at dynastyfootballfactory.com.
Oh, so yeah, that's great. The Scouting Academy is awesome. Make sure you jump on our site and hit that link so you save yourself $50 off there next semester.
Learn how to scout like a pro.
Scout like a pro, but no, we're going to move on now, aren't we, Michael?
Yep, we're moving on, and we have our special guest here. He's already in the room with us, and it's Dan Clasgens, host of the Fantistics Insider over on SiriusXM. How you doing, Dan?
Oh, it's my time of year, fellas. I'm fired up. How about you?
Awesome.
It's our time of the year too. It really is. We just finished doing a bunch of startups and maybe have a couple left before the season starts. But all the dynasty trades have gone down. We're taking a reprieve because I don't know about Shane, but I kind of need a break. What about you, Mike? Shane trades every day. I need a break from that stuff.
No, I want to keep trading. Dan, we are on episode 88 today, but I see that your podcast, you hit your 100th episode this past week, correct?
Congrats.
Oh man, it was a big milestone, and it's actually the relaunch of my podcast because I actually started my first fantasy podcast back in 2004. And it was funny. It was that podcast that the guy that hired me on SiriusXM actually heard that I was doing in a closet. So, but relaunching the podcast back in 2017, always been passionate. But this 100th episode, I'll tell you what, fellas, I had a good idea. I got a lot of good response. And you get asked the question all the time: how'd you get started in fantasy? How'd you end up doing this? And
right.
I mean, I did go to school for broadcasting, so there was a little bit of that. But at the end of the day, I share my journey in podcasting in fantasy and try to give some helpful tips to others getting in the industry. And I got some good help from some of my friends, some big hitters on here. Hall of Famer from the Fantasy Sports Writing Association, Bob Harris. We got Adam Ronis, Paul Kelly, Howard Bender, Pat Fitzmaurice, Joe Pizza Pia. A lot of my friends in fantasy also sharing their journeys and offering some good tips. And anybody out there that's hustling it out, podcast, and wanting to figure out how to get their starts in that or in sports, it's a great listen because there's a lot of truth to it and really amazing stories for each and every person having a different one.
I was actually listening earlier this afternoon, I think on the way home from work, trying to remember why I keep doing this. And it's because I hate my day job. And
or don't like it as well anyway. It's not.
Yeah, there you go.
fun.
That sounds less worse if my boss hates it. So yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I like this better. But no, yeah, it was a really cool episode. I didn't know that's what it was going to be because I didn't read the intro because I don't like reading.
Reading is not why people listen to podcasts.
Right.
Exactly. It's
But
the
no,
love
it was
of reading. Exactly the opposite.
very cool episode, and you can actually find that on Google Play. It's on Google Play, so I'm assuming it's everywhere. Podbean.
Yeah, we're out as many places as we
Yeah.
can get. The Get Sports Info podcast. Check it out. And but no, fellas, obviously 88 episodes is nothing to shake your head at either. So a lot of hard work. I really appreciate coming on and talking with you and having some new listeners.
I mean, we're excited you're here. That's big for us.
Yeah, you mentioned our buddy Bob Harris. I mean, is everybody friends with Bob Harris? He's like your favorite uncle. Everyone knows him, never has a bad word to say. That guy is great. He jumped on our podcast in the early days, like episode 8 maybe. But anyway, you know what I'm saying, early on. And he's just great. I mean, a good friend of the show, and everybody has great. And that's the thing about this industry. There are so many people just like that, and like you, that are just willing to jump on and talk football and have a good time and help everybody out.
No doubt about it. A lot of great people. Bob's certainly one of them, and he's as real as it gets. So, lots of fun though. Looking forward to the next 100 episodes. So,
there you go.
Yeah, that's great. So,
be there to listen.
One of the things we were going to talk about tonight, because like you said, this is the time of year everybody's all excited, and all the preseason games, the first week of preseason games started this week. So we were wondering, like, to get some of your takeaways from week one. What were some of the things that you really were surprised about, or that you were happy about, or that you were excited about?
Yeah, I definitely think there was. And first of all, people who think preseason has little value in fantasy are mistakenly wrong. I think there's a ton of things to look at. Now, week one's not obviously the most thrilling, but the most exciting thing for me in week one, there were no major injuries, right? Because that's the number one thing. There were some concerns and some takeaways, certainly some situations I'm really looking forward to watching, like, for instance, the San Francisco receiving core. Well, who will step up for some of these targets? Dante Pettis, a guy I've been on for some time, but Jalen Hurd, 2 touchdowns the other night. Deebo Samuel, a lot of young players there. Marquise Goodwin on the bubble. So I'm looking to see how all those guys are performing. And another receiving situation there in Pittsburgh. James Washington, it was talked about amongst beat reporters how he was sort of falling behind the mix there. Somebody's got to step up. All those targets to be made up in that offense. Dante Moncrief, is he the guy? I don't know. But that, Darrell Henderson sort of flopping. There was nothing, though, that I was more mesmerized with in the week one of the preseason than the limited action I got to see Kyler Murray in. That air raid offense, that to me, and I know we're not going to see a lot of looks of it, but you're either buying or you're not on that. There's no in between. And fellas, count me as being all in on that hype train. I was pretty impressed, and I think it's going to be a pretty exciting jump out of the gate, at least from a fantasy perspective here in 2019 for that offense.
It's funny, when I was on another podcast and I had mentioned that Justice Hill kind of looked like he was sped up, but that's what Kyler looked like too when he broke out of the pocket, and you could just tell that. I think, at least I can tell, I think it's obvious that he's just going to crush this year, because I don't know what you do with him. Like, even if someone doesn't get open, if he takes off, you almost rather a wide receiver get open for 10 yards, because if he takes off, there's a chance that he's going to just take it to the end zone.
Yeah, no doubt about it. He's going to be an exciting player. Just go to YouTube and watch his highlights. Or even Darrell Henderson. Those two, they pass the eyeball test, fellas. I mean, you can look at these things all you want. You can hear the coach flap their gums. You can see all the analysis and inside numbers. But at the end of the day, the good old eyeball test is still what wins for me. And Justice Hill passes that easily.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love Justice Hill. I love Kyler Murray. It was good to see James Washington kind of assert himself. Whatever day Pittsburgh played, I don't even know at this point.
It was Friday.
Was it Friday? Yeah, because a lot of the beat reporters were talking about he was almost, I think, behind Deontay Johnson, like fourth on the depth chart.
Yeah, I was going to say I was doing a redraft mock with Bob Harris on Friday, and that game was on, and James Washington scored that touchdown, and everybody was like talking about it while we were doing the show. But yeah, that was Friday. Yeah, I was happy about that. I have him in a couple different leagues.
Was there anything bad that you saw this week, Dan?
Besides Antonio Brown and everything.
The helmet.
I mean,
yeah.
No, like I said, outside of injuries, even if I did see something bad, I'm not going to overreact to it. In this Twitterverse that we live in, it's crazy. You get these notifications on your phone. And it's like, oh, seeing trainer leaving on cart, and it's like, oh man. But
the whole market changes.
I know, but no, I think you just have to take it all in stride. And it is a fluid situation. I know you guys are like me. I mean, you've already been drafted. My first fantasy draft was before Wild Card Weekend for 2019, last year in 2018. So, yeah, I've been drafting a while. My takes change daily. But, you have to be fluid and you have to stick to a process. And I think that's what really separates the good from the bad when you get into some of these high stakes leagues and some of these more industry leagues when you're playing against sharp players like we do.
For you, what do you play mostly in? Do you play in redraft or do you play in dynasty or do you play both or what do you do?
I like to play a little of everything, right? I get paid to help people, answer people's questions and answer them quickly. So being able to play in a lot of formats is fun. I mean, I've always been a redraft season-long guy. That's where I've been doing 30-plus years. I think my rankings and my the way I've scored and my accuracy there at Fantasy Pros in my draft ranking speaks for itself. So I definitely like redraft leagues. I don't like hitting the waiver wire, though. So the best ball stuff's really adhering to me. I do like dynasties. But at the same time, for me, on the dynasty side, I only have a few teams. They're all different types of formats. Actually, we just started up a dynasty best ball super flex.
Yeah, man, those are tough. They are tough. Once you're out of it, you're just you're reevaluating your life.
And I invited nothing but not necessarily industry guys, but really good fantasy players that are good friends as well. And holy cow, that was a fun draft. It was a slow draft, and by the end of it, you're sweating it out. But I encourage people, try as many different formats as you can. I mean, but then again, my dad and his buddies, they still have a touchdown-only league here, fellas. I'm like, guys, come on, let's add some yardage to this.
It's not going to change.
I was trying to explain to my dad decimal point scoring for kickers, and he looked at me like I was speaking French or something.
So you would not advocate us playing touchdown only scoring because I don't know because I'm all with you on the different formats and playing redraft and dynasty and even a little best ball, but I don't think I can get into the touchdown only scoring leagues. I don't know how that would help my game.
Get into the one quarterback.
Well, first of all,
let's get real.
I mean, I grew up in Kentucky. We start betting ponies when we're like 8 years old. So I mean, I'll play just about anything. I mean, I do not play only touchdown. The last touchdown only league I played in, I think, was before Y2K. I mean, it's been a while.
Yeah, even the ones we used to do back in the day with the newspaper and the pencil and papers and stuff. The reason I ask you that is because there's certain players that in Dynasty you wouldn't think about it that way, but in redraft you definitely do. And one of the big names, obviously people are talking about Zeke and people are talking about Gordon and stuff like that. Where do you have those guys in redraft? How do you feel about Zeke and Gordon for redraft players, not Dynasty players?
Yeah, I definitely think in terms of Zeke, I mean, we're all just guess, right? I mean,
sure.
we all think we know what's going on or we can make an educated guess, but hey, this is where it's at. I go back to 2017. We were trying to make educated guess on Ezekiel Elliott at that time. And gosh, I had some heated debates with listeners and fellow peers as well. But at the end of the day, I was all in on Elliott that year facing the 6 games and gobbled him up when he fell to me in early round 2 and then didn't lose any sleep because he still finishes RB9. You get replacement value there. If I'm drafting right now, and I will, I have an auction and 3 drafts in the next 5 days, and there's none of them that are freebies anymore, fellas. This is every one of these leagues has entry fees that are enough I care about. But I will say this: in these instances, he's definitely starting to slide down a little bit, but I'm more concerned about Gordon because I don't think he's all that good. I don't think the Chargers are as convinced that they absolutely need him like Jerry Jones is with the Cowboys. So I don't know. I have the 8th pick and a $350 buy-in coming up here, and I would love Ezekiel Elliott to come to me in that league because I'll take him all day long and take my chances. It's all about risk tolerance. So Melvin Gordon to me, probably mid-3rd round. I haven't been in a draft scene going past I think the latest I saw him was 4-2 in a draft. In the SiriusXM host league, I think he slipped to the 4th round last year. That was a standard draft last week when we had that. But I don't know. I wasn't really buying Melvin Gordon a lot before all of this, to be honest. Not to say I didn't think I liked his situation, but there's a lot of great players in those first couple rounds. So why take somebody that you're not 100% sold on? Same reason I let Antonio Brown slip down a little bit. I'll take some other players in that range because I don't feel like dealing with the headaches, and especially if I'm only in a league or 2, which I'm not, but people out there that are, it's like if you're only in a couple leagues, man, especially if it's just with buddies and stuff, if you don't like a player and you don't really want him on your team, I'm cool with that, man. Don't do it if you don't want to root for the guy.
That's what I've been saying for years with all this stuff. I always get the guys I want. And in that redraft I did on Friday, though, I got AB in the 5th round. So I was kind of happy about that.
I would be able to turn that down. I wouldn't turn it down in the 4th round.
Yeah, I wouldn't turn that down.
I mean,
helmet or not.
Yeah, Friday we were still staring at the prospect of him retiring.
Exactly.
So
I figured that was just dressed up for Hard Knocks or something. That was just drama. I mean, the guy is drama. But I like how some of these players are dropping because of the overreaction. And something Dan said made me check a live startup draft for a dynasty league, a 12-teamer. Dan, I got Melvin Gordon at 305 in the halfway down the 3rd round. And I'm sorry, but based on everything, as long as he plays somewhere, that I think is value. I already had it.
Yeah, I'd be gobbling that up all day long.
You know who else has dropped a lot? And I know you work with the Bengals.
Yeah, ESPN in Cincinnati.
Yeah, 1530. I do fantasy and stuff for on that station and some high school football.
So you have to talk to Bengals, Mike, in Cincinnati.
Yeah. I'm still a fan, and I do fantasy updates during their pregame. At the end of the day, from a fantasy perspective, not a lot to get excited about.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to know about some of their bigger players, bigger names like AJ Green, Joe Mixon, John Ross, all the changes going on. And like you said, they're kind of a hot mess at this point. But what do people want to know about those players, and what do you think, short-term or long-term, on those 3 names right there, Green, Ross, and Mixon?
Well, I think one thing we all have to remember here, Marvin Lewis is gone. So after 15 years, Lord knows that he took this team from some pretty bad depths and took it to another level. He couldn't get it to the next level. And from an offensive standpoint, I'm very excited about Zach Taylor. I'm a UC football fan. I was actually watched games where he was the offensive coordinator there. He comes into a pedigree. He's already brought some energy in there and some modernization in their thinking and the technology and even the video and the things they're doing. So I think he's going to get the most out of Andy Dalton. It is unfortunate they've already lost here before really the first preseason game even kicked off. Their first-round pick, left tackle Jonah Williams, a big blow. That was the most no-brainer first-round pick out there, a guy that will be the ankle left tackle. Now A.J. Green, as you mentioned, 6 to 8 weeks. Now, I thought A.J. Green before the injury was a great value. He was falling to wide receiver 14, mid-round 3. He's going to go in about 5 or 6 now. I'm a little concerned the durability's there. Tyler Boyd's obviously a name don't. I think he's going to be a wide receiver too. And would have been regardless. But Joe Mixon, top 10 guys, hands down. Everybody's like, well, the line sucks. And so the line sucked last year too, fellas, and he missed 2 games and was RB9. This guy is every bit of a 3-down player. And I think he and Giovanni Bernard, who's worth a double-digit dart, because I think he's going to have standalone value. They don't really have a tight end. A.J. Green's out there. They're going to get them both in the mix. So I think there's things to like. One thing you have to remember is the Bengals defense was historically in their 51-year history the worst it was last year, and they did little to improve it. So they're gonna have to keep throwing the football early, often, and
Good point.
it's gonna be a long season though for Bengal fans.
And that's what you want. You want that defense to be horrible for all of your offensive weapons.
In fantasy football,
Yeah, and Joe Mixon, that's perfect for him too because he can catch out of the backfield, obviously. Not as well as Gio, but I don't think you take Joe Mixon off the field a lot for Gio, hopefully. Although I did hear some chatter. Is Gio getting an extension with the Bengals?
I don't believe that's going to happen. He isn't a contract year. He's still just 27. And in games where Joe Mixon has him, and it starts he's made the last 2 years, he's averaged like 17 fantasy points per contest in those in PPR. So Gio Bernard, if he does get the chance,
it's huge.
Is a big guy. And I've been taking him. I'll take him as my RB 5 or 6 around 13. Oh, yeah. Go ahead, around 14, wherever he falls. I'll take it all day long.
What do you think? I was just gonna say, what do you think?
Keep going, guys. Do it again.
You could see my mouth moving.
But he was talking about the running backs. I was gonna ask him what he thought about the 2 rookie running backs that they got.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I expect one of them to probably at least be on a PUP list or even an IR situation. I don't know. With Gio Bernard in a contract year, I don't know if the Bengals will re-sign him, so I think it's more of a long-term play. In Dynasty, I don't think I've seen enough of them to tell you which one I favor. Williams and it is the guy that I think is probably a little better bet out of the gate, but the jury's still out for me on those guys. I do think that they're definitely looking towards 2020 and beyond with both those players, though.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Shane.
Guys, they invested nothing in either of those players. I mean, those are just if they happen to outplay, where they were drafted, great. If not, you'll get rid of them in next year or the year after.
Yeah.
Unless their specials teams
just like Mark Walton.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, hopefully they won't get arrested as much as.
Well, yeah. Hey, hopefully I'll take the under 2.5 arrests for this year's crop.
Mark's down here in Miami now.
Ooh, so he might make the team down there.
Yeah, like. Exactly.
South Beach is probably not the best place for him to be.
I doubt it. Yeah, no, it sounds rough.
Well, I'm thinking he has an ankle bracelet on wherever he's at, so he's probably very limited.
They're monitoring.
Allegedly.
Like they are you? No, I'm kidding.
No. He's been arrested repeatedly.
I know, but he doesn't have an ankle monitor.
Like Anderson.
And they don't really monitor those things anyway. Don't you know?
Oh, yeah. No, we know here where I am that they don't monitor those things.
Look, I go out every day. That's all I'm saying.
Crimes. You go out every day.
Yeah, exactly. So I actually have Joe Mixon. I was looking, and I actually dropped him down my draft board for redraft this year, and I dropped him all the way down to 112.
And you have to stick to your convictions, Shane.
Yeah, he was like 108. I got him at 112 now, I think, or 109. So he's still a first-round pick for me. I'm big on Mixon. Yeah. I got him above David Johnson and James Conner.
I started June with him as my RB5. I still got him as my RB8, so I'm still a little higher than most. I think he was RB9 last year, like I said, and he missed 2 games. So, and he's going to only be better in the Zach Taylor offense because they actually have somebody that has some ingenuity that I think is going to really help them. So,
and in most drafts, he's not being drafted above how he placed last year. And most of the drafts I'm in, he's still pretty much a value. You get him on the turn.
If you get him on the turn in round 2 as your RB2 or on the back end of a top 3 wideout. Yeah. That's a beautiful way to start off, especially in PPR.
The last two,
best ball, yeah,
the last 2 drafts I've been in, he's gone around 7 and 8 on both of those. So he's
redraft.
Yeah, redraft. Yeah. In the one on Friday too. I think he went 8 or 9, one of the two. He's right up there.
I'm not surprised by that, but in dynasty leagues, when you see him fall to the turn, it's pretty crazy. But anyway, enough about the Bengals. They're not good enough for us to talk about them this long.
I'm getting depressed here.
Well, over at Get Sports Info, your website, you have an article up there about general auction drafts and snake drafts. Which one of those do you like better? Because Jeremy and I have talked about it. We like the auctions better. Shane kind of likes the snakes better. But which do you like?
I love the auctions for a lot of reasons. I do think that not everybody should try an auction. Right. Because, I've got some buddies, they just had the attention span of an ant. Right. And it's like, you had to be engaged and dial in. Plus, here's the thing. Auctions online are great. I don't really like auctioning with a group if I would have to also take a turn being the auctioneer.
No, you can't do that.
In the leagues the one league where I still do an auction that's not online, we actually pay and hire an auctioneer. We got a guy that's really into it too. He does a great job. But it's a lot of fun. Auctions are awesome. I could do a redraft snake draft in my sleep. In fact, the other night I virtually did. Scott Atkins, full-time fantasy, texted me. I was literally hanging on by a thread just to watch Kyler Murray in that 10 o'clock start there on the East Coast. And I literally got a text saying, "Hey, man, I've been trying to fill this last spot. I'll give you a team if you want in." I was like, when's the draft start? He says, when you log in. And fellas, I literally 5 minutes later was on the clock with pick 4 and went ahead, did 18 rounds and went back to bed. So, snake drafts, they're great. I love doing them, but there's nothing better than an in-person draft with people that you enjoy being with. Because to me, that is the core of fantasy. And you talk about my website, getsportsinfo.com. Do yourself a favor there. I've been working on this article for 15 years on all my local and national radio shows, building this list. We got a list called Characters in Your Fantasy League.
Oh, I was going to mention that. I read that article this afternoon. That is so awesome because I know somebody in each one of those freaking categories.
Yeah, that meets each card, yeah.
It is a great article.
Dad, send them to me. But a lot of those came about from listeners. But we've got a list. Basically, every character in every fantasy league in America has at least some of these characters in it. And without these characters, fantasy leagues suck.
Absolutely. It's funny, when I was reading it, I was thinking of my home league, which these guys I've been playing with for 20 years, and each category, while I was reading it, I saw the face of the person I think it is.
Yes. And if you're lucky, you're more than one character in your league, multiple personalities. Just looking at you guys on Skype, I know you guys probably have a couple of different personalities.
Oh my God, Shane's definitely got a character in your league. No doubt. The guy is he's made for this.
I'm gonna have to definitely check that out. Whenever we. I just made a trade. Anyway, so whenever we
Crappy
get around,
trade man. That's one of my characters. You guys know.
That's definitely me. There you go. Yeah. I
Or
don't know if you have completely overdrafts every wide receiver guy, but that's me for a lot of years. Like zero running back, I was doing that before it had a name, and I wasn't doing it as because I thought it was a winning strategy.
You didn't end up with any good running backs?
I just loved wide receivers. I was like, look, and this was my rationale, and this is a long time ago. It was like, look, a wide receiver could score for like 80 yards on one play, and they just make your week, where it takes forever for a running back to get 80 yards. But it wasn't the soundest theory.
Well, Dan, I
did not put the thought into it that the creator of the actual term came up with.
Dan, we really appreciate you coming on. We were thankful that you were able to come here. Yeah, everybody go check out that website, getsportsinfo.com. That's also your podcast too. And you've got some other articles there that are really interesting for people to check out. And do you want to say anything else before you go?
No, man. Like I said, really appreciate you guys having me on. Always fun. Crazy time of the year, as I said, for all of us with drafts and everything else. But no, I guess the only thing I'd say, hit me up on Twitter. Love talking to you there too, at Dan Clasgens. And you guys have good luck in the rest of your drafts. And man, try to at least get a couple shares of my Bengals. I know I talked you into them a little bit.
I do.
I hope I didn't.
I love Tyler Boyd, and I love Joe Mixon, and Andy Dalton in a super flex. I could stream him.
Oh man, Andy Dalton back with the Jay Gruden days. He had some really great seasons. I expect him to do maybe not that well, but close. Again with Zach, I really do. Andy Dalton wasn't the worst thing about that offense in the past, I think, and I think Dan basically reiterated that again earlier. Andy Dalton lovers unite.
Yeah, and he's relatively cheap everywhere you want to get him. So yeah, and
he's so cheap.
And go to Dan's Twitter at Dan Clasgens, and his pinned tweet is his 100th episode for the podcast. So check that out and listen to that. And thanks again, Dan. We really appreciate it.
All right,
thank you, Dan.
Have a great night. Thanks for having me.
Have a great
night,
Dan.
Sir. Appreciate you.
So that was fun. Dan's a great guest, and check him out on Sirius and his podcast. So, all right. So why don't we hear from our new sponsor, and then we'll do the rest of the show. Shane, who is our new sponsor?
BestFantasyFootballLeague.com.
Awesome.
Stop. Collaborate and listen. BestFantasyFootballLeague.com is back with a brand new invention. Okay, it's not really a new invention, but they've got a cool twist on the dynasty leagues they're currently providing. 1 quarterback, 3 running back, 4 wide receivers, a tight end, 2 flex, no kickers and defenses, 24 rounds. They also have redraft leagues, best ball leagues, entry fees from $19.99 to $2,999. Go check them out, bestfantasyfootballleague.com.
All right, anyway, so guess what, guys?
What?
We have a trash Dynasty trade offer.
You are shitting me.
A trash one? Okay.
A trash one. I love these. I feel sometimes like we get away from our base where we started from. And where we really started from, I think, was a place where we wanted to make fun of people.
No,
we did
not.
We did not. I wanted to make. I feel like I've gotten too nice over the last year.
I don't know.
Maybe, but that was never our intention to make fun of people.
Well, when we first started this show, that was my intention. Like, I wanted to make some enemies. I feel like we're too nice now. So here's a shitty offer from someone in a league to one of our patrons, Frank, a.k.a. Kaboom.
Okay.
And this is just a stupid trade. And if you make offers like this, you're probably stupid. So he wanted to get Derrick Henry and Deebo Samuel.
Wait, Kaboom did, or the other person did?
No, the other person did.
Okay.
So what he thought, and the best way to get those two players would be to offer Tony Pollard and Preston Williams.
Wow.
Like, here's the thing, right? So I understand selling the hype. You know what I mean? You sell the hype. That's what you do, right?
Right, sure.
You sell Tony Pollard and Preston Williams, but you don't try to sell them for Derrick Henry and Deebo Samuel. Not unless you think Kaboom is actually stupid. And you know what? I know Frank, and I know he can spell, so I know he's not that stupid. Like, you basically have to be illiterate to be stupid enough to accept that trade.
The worst part of all these kind of trades, I hate when somebody says, "Oh, I know it was bad. I was just trying to open up discussion with you." You know, that's crock of shit.
Unless the discussion is you want me to curse you out, then that's fine. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, look, Shane, you haven't cursed at me in a while, and I missed that. Sending me an offer like this would produce that reaction where I would be like, oh, you need to go.
Oh my God! No!
Holy crap! You know, the thing for me though that makes this a bad trade, it isn't that Tony Pollard Pollard can't someday maybe be as good as Derrick Henry, or that Preston Williams isn't already better than Deebo Samuel. It's that this trade shows you have absolutely no idea of what real value is on any given day of fantasy football. Like, there's no way Tony Pollard and Preston Williams right now are worth anything close to Derrick Henry and Deebo Samuel. I mean, you have to add something else to that to even send this to somebody. It's just pretty ignorant.
No, see, I'll tell you what. Like, if you wanted to try to sell Tony Pollard and Preston Williams for, say, Kenyon Drake, someone that's gotten just he's had a bad air quotes.
Somebody that you think's got a shot and is risky, but
but Deebo Samuel, he hasn't done anything this preseason or offseason for you to be like, let me sell low on this guy. Derrick Henry, yes, he's
sell low on Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry's in a walking boot, fine. But you know what I mean? Like, come on, dude. Like, just don't send offers like that. And if you're listening to this show and you sent that offer, you should be ashamed of yourself. And if you're Catholic, I need you to go to church, go to confessional,
oh my God,
and ask for forgiveness.
Or whoever you are out there, if you are listening, you could send us a message on our Twitter account and explain to us what your thought process was of sending that trade offer. And maybe he had a reason.
Yeah, you can DM me, whatever.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Never mind. DM Shane then.
Or be a patron. I don't really give a shit, but just don't make trade offers like this again.
Speaking of patrons, you had a trade alert in the listener league, right? You did a trade. Last week when we were doing the Patreon show, I kind of brokered a trade between you and Larry Monkey, and then you guys did a trade after the show went off the air, correct?
Yeah, so everyone is on the other side of this trade. So I didn't even bother to poll it, which I don't anyway usually, because I don't really give a shit what most people think.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Anyway, please like me. Please like me. So Larry Monkey.
Larry Monkey. I love that primate. Such a good dude.
He gave me Corith Davis.
Corith.
Yeah, and Ito Smith Ito Smith. I couldn't think of a funny name for Ito. Like, I couldn't make that a full name.
I didn't even think Korath was that funny, but I got what you were doing there.
It's not funny. I mean, it's not funny. Ha ha. It's like
I wasn't laughing.
humor.
I didn't laugh either. Yeah, that's
it wasn't funny. We'll just cut that all out.
No way. Why are we going to cut it out? Keep it in.
Larry Monkey gave me Corey Davis and Ito Smith. Oh, and just real quick, as I want to do, let's explain the league. 16-team listener league, Superflex.
Right,
16
yeah.
teams.
16 teams, and it's so difficult to even get a starting player with the requirements we have with our starting lineups.
Is it true? And just as a note, I missed the waivers the other day, and I went in afterwards, and there wasn't even anyone for me to pick up. Like, everybody had an FA next to their name.
Yep.
I was like, I'm picking him up.
That's why I spent $926 on Darren Waller because I needed a tight end, and he was the only tight end that was even startable.
That's the problem with this league. Like, the waivers are useless, even in season. Like, there's nobody there. No one.
And that's why I spent all my money. I was like, oh, forget it. But so, all right, so you got Corey Davis and Ito Smith, and you gave up Justice Hill, a 2020 first, a 2021 first, and a 2021 second.
So I had an abundance of first round picks. I had five first round picks out of the next two drafts. So I figured I could give up a couple of those. And quite frankly, that second rounder in 2021, I have no idea what that class is going to look like right now, nor do I know where that pick's going to fall. But yeah, everyone in the listener league made fun of me and wanted to make me overpay for other players.
Everybody made fun of you.
Well, I
didn't see it, or I would have made fun of you too. I can't keep up with the listener league thread. I wish I could. It's so entertaining. But every time I go in there, there's like 113 messages. I'm like, oh, forget it. Just forget it.
Well, the next day, Shane, I did a trade in the listener league also, where I gave similar stuff. I gave up Chase Edmonds, a 2020 first, a 2021 first, and a 2021 third. And I got Kenny Galladay and Sammy Watkins.
Oh, shit. You just crushed Shane's trade. That's so much better.
Well, Galladay's okay. The only thing.
Well, isn't Corey Davis okay?
No, Corey Davis is a stud. Good. Check out our buddy Travis May sometime on Twitter. He also happens to cover the Titans for something. I don't remember what.
Travis May. We read his stuff.
Yeah. But he's been pumping up Corey Davis. So if this trade goes sideways, I blame mostly him.
So, but similar ADP information, Corey Davis and Kenny Galladay are not that much far apart from each other.
I do like Shane's trade. I just meant that I think you got a little.
No, you definitely got much better value. Sammy Watkins, getting Sammy Watkins in that trade is huge because that's a guy that, I mean, again, he's got injury history, but he still has top 24 wide receiver potential.
You're begging the question now. I need to know, when do we find out when the listeners in our listener league are drunk and I can make these offers too?
No, listen. First of all, my trade was with Running Chalk, which is Justin, and he sent it to me first. But we went back and forth a few times. His first thing had Willie Snead in it instead of Sammy Watkins, and I didn't want Willie Snead.
Pretty big difference.
Yeah.
It's a pretty big difference.
But the difference also in mine and Shane's trade is where you said you gave a 2021 second, I gave a 2021 third. But I agree with you. Who knows what that class is going to look like? And it's 2 years from now. We can figure out a way to get those picks back.
Yeah, there's no way I'm alive in 2 years. That's
what you always say about me too.
Yeah, you're so there's a good chance that me and you are both dead, and those picks, like whoever buys those teams, is just going to be like, seriously, you let these guys trade out for 2 years, and whoever's the other 2/3 new hosts of this show are just going to be mad at Jeremy.
But it is true. And Jeremy. But it is true though. In a 16-team league, the main reason I did it too was, I mean, I got 2 wide receivers that I could potentially put into my starting lineup every single week because it is so hard to get players in that league, you know?
Oh, God, yes. Definitely every week you're
putting
those.
Can't get players unless you trade away future draft picks and somebody wants them. There's no other way. It's almost like a best ball dynasty league. Dan brought it up earlier when he said that, he's doing a best ball dynasty league. Those things, I mean, once you're out of it, you are truly, and you, of course you follow along because you can trade. It's not like a best ball where you draft it and forget it. You have to be involved all year round. And if you start sliding out of the points, you have to trade and make something happen if you get nervous and somebody got hurt and you're done. it's such a tenuous thing. And it reminds me of what you were just saying. It's the same kind of thing with like the 16 teamer. We created the same kind of drama because it's like literally if you don't trade away future picks or a good player that's young, you have no shot at winning this year if you fall behind. There's just not only so much you can do. And when we made it a 16 teamer, and Mike, I know it wasn't my idea.
Don't look at me. It definitely was. I was going to say it was your idea. I did not want a 16.
I like all 15 other people that are in it, but it's too hard.
Yeah, that
I'll
definitely
tell you what, that's not even
idea.
the worst part of it. If it was 16 teams and we didn't have 11 starters,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Even if it was just 10 starters, but
it's super flex.
And it's super flex.
Yeah, 11 is a little daunting. We probably should have done 9.
But no, it's really it's kind of fun to be in a league where people are starting players that some people never heard of.
I like it. It's a challenge.
As a testament to our setup, we only had one person really truly leave the league that didn't want to play in this format anymore because it was so hard. And still a listener, still a good person, but I mean, it wasn't for them. Yeah. Otherwise, we maintained pretty well. So, it was a challenge we set up for Listener League One, and I'm happy with it, you guys.
I'm happy with it too.
Challenge. It did meet that.
It's definitely a different kind of league. So what?
Yeah, so if just want to get into it, if you guys want to let us know how you think we did on the trades. I already know I lost mine. Like, I already know I lost mine on whatever.
I don't think you lost it. Why do you think you lost it?
No, I mean, if you were to put it to Twitter, there's no way I win that trade.
He thinks that the Twitter community would say he lost it. Yeah.
Just like I traded Antonio Brown for Sammy Watkins straight up during Helmet Gate. And I didn't even care. I put that to Twitter, but I just wanted to see how badly I would lose.
Yeah.
It was a lot worse than I thought.
Yeah.
It was like the last I looked, it was 76-24 with like 300 votes.
And it wasn't only the poll. Didn't like people start commenting saying, "Oh, it looks like Shane's panicking" or whatever it was?
Yeah. What's funny is I did send it from not even my handle. I sent it from the Dynasty Trades HQ handle, just trying to be anonymous.
Just to be anonymous. Good for you.
We're like, this smells like a Shane panic trick. I'm like, son of a bitch.
I saw those comments and I thought it was funny. So, hey, we're going to do a Patreon show tonight, but before we get to the Patreon show, why don't we wrap everything up? But Jeremy, why don't you tell everybody where we're going to be in like freaking 4 days?
Oh man, starting Friday evening, we're going to be in Canton, Ohio. And that might not sound sexy to you guys, but it does to us because on Saturday, after we go to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, we're going to have a hell of a party, sleep really well, and then wake up the next morning and go to the Midwest Fantasy Football Expo. You can find out more information about this, MidwestFFExpo.com, organized by Bob Long, who lives in Canton. I don't know why he lives there, but he does. It's Sunday, August 18th, noon to 6 p.m. So many people from the fantasy football industry are going to be there, 32 booths. Many, many, many more people traveling from all over the country just to be there to hang out and talk football, fantasy football. The tickets are only $20, but you can save $5 on your admission ticket using our code online. It's TradesHQ. Just go to MidwestFFExpo.com, look into the information there, get the address, buy yourself a ticket, save $5. Listen, there's a swag bag that you're going to get if you buy a ticket. And there's at least $15 or $20 worth of coupons in there and freebies. Again, swag is what they're calling it. Lots of cool stuff. So you can't go wrong. Stop by and see us. We're going to have stuff for sale, giveaways, raffles. You're going to get to meet all three of us, get Shane's autograph, and see what a real trade maniac signature looks like. There's a podcast stage, a main stage for speakers. We're going to be involved in a panel discussion. Heck, people are organizing drafts on site. We're going to podcast from there. There's so much going on. MidwestFFExpo.com, and come see us this Sunday from noon to 6.
Yeah, you're right. Next week's show, we're going to record it maybe at the house party on Saturday night. We'll record the show. So check that out. Check that out. Check out our iTunes account. Give us a rate and review at DynastyTradesHQ. Check out our Twitter account at DynastyTradesHQ. Check out our website, DynastyFootballFactory.com. Oh, and Shane, isn't your redraft guide still there for sale?
It is still there for sale because the season hasn't happened yet, but it actually will be available for sale for probably ever until next year.
Sweet.
But I don't know. There's a lot of Dynasty stuff you can use for Dynasty. There's some strategy and whatnot. But yeah, it's only $10. Go buy one for yourself, buy one for your friends, buy one for your mom, Mother's Day.
Oh yeah,
Hanukkah's coming up. Hanukkah, look, there's 8 days of Hanukkah, so go ahead and buy 8 of them for every night of Hanukkah. But you should, in all seriousness, you should at least buy one because, I worked on it. Tom Burrows worked on it. Michael Stevenson worked on it, and I've read draft guides, and it's a lot more in depth and better than most draft guides. And I'll just say this up front: if you're a person that's just tell me what to do because I'm brainless and that's all I want, well, it's not the guide for you. I will say that. It's
jam-packed with information. Dude, I edited that, did the final review. I swear to God, it took me 5 hours to get through it. There's so much good information. I knew it was going to be good. I didn't expect it to be that good. I didn't. I mean, it's like a magazine you'd pick off the bookshelf at your local store, but you'll read it for hours.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's what I was going to say. Is it leads you to the right conclusions. But if you need someone just to tell you what to do, this isn't a guide for you. But if you read it and use the consistency guides, the rankings, the player capsules, the breakdowns of each team,
it helps you make the decision, buddy.
You'll know what players you need to choose from.
I think also if somebody needs to be told what to do, they'll get that information from that as well. So maybe they should still buy it.
Yeah, they can. Look, if they just want to look at the rankings, that's fine. You can do that too. But I'm just saying it's well worth the cost because it's got a ton of great stuff in there. So
awesome.
Seriously, go pick one up.
All right. And so thanks for listening. Check out our show next week. I can't wait to hang out with you guys in a couple days. And
it's going to be awesome.
All right. And we'll talk to you guys next week.
You both owe me drinks, by the way.
Yeah. Say bye, Shane.
Bye, Shane.